Greetings, I'm Zak. Now today I wanted to talk about two things. One, I wanted to talk about collectors' habits and the reasoning that we all find for wanting to collect physical media and the like. And the other is to go through the Arrow video pickups I got from the Easter sale that they had on. Now that will actually formulate like a two-part video, but initially to kind of base like my reasoning for getting the titles in this particular selection, I wanted to kind of discuss like what is it that drives or like motivates me to collect physical media. Now, more often than not, I'm finding, especially on the likes of YouTube, social media and things, a lot of people like to go down the route of they want, in their eyes, the perfect physical media collection. Now, in ways I do see the reasoning behind that to kind of say that they have the best of the best when it comes to movies. However, a different angle that I feel as if I more approach that from is the fact that when it comes to movies, much like in the days of Blockbuster and things, I like to revisit like that kind of feeling in my mind of going into a store, finding a title, looking at the cover art, reading the synopsis on the back of the box, renting it out, or indeed now purchasing it, putting it on my shelf so I don't have to take it back or anything, and basically it's in the bag when it's got to then give me the opportunity to watch it. Now, I do believe every movie, for better or worse, does deserve at least one shot when it comes to like giving it a watch, because more often than not, I've said it plenty of times before, that a lot of people do shoot down on some movies, and that does dissuade a lot of people from going and watching things. Like, it kind of influences movies like negatively before you've even watched it. Now, for certain movies, I can understand that reasoning because, let's be fair, of all the movies that exist, there are undoubtedly going to be some that are utterly atrocious. I cannot deny that. However, when it comes to the likes of like boutique labels and things, Arrow Video, 88 Films, they have plenty of titles in the mix that kind of catch you off guard. You've never heard of them before, and that kind of does kind of tap into that want, that kind of need almost for like to explore that title, to see what that has to offer. Now, talking about pricing and things, that is obviously going to be a discussion for another video, but things, because in this particular instance, the physical media that I collected here was all on discount for Easter, which was absolutely fantastic. Would I have been able to have picked these up if it wasn't on discount? Honestly, no, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had the money or the resources to put this stuff into my collection, despite me obviously wanting these titles. They've been on my radar for a while, but they do fit that category of I don't necessarily know what it is, but I'm interested in it and I want to give it a shot. Now, that is very much in contrast to the people that say, oh, if you're not that interested in it, blah, blah, blah. People's collecting 2025, it does seem to go down that route more often than not. Down the route of, I've already seen that movie, that's why I want the brand spanking best wonderful edition of it. Sure, again, I totally understand that that's fine, but to a degree, I feel as if that's not entirely the way I collect things. Sure, it's obviously going to chime in there somewhere. Obviously, my favourite films ever, I'm going to, of course, want those on 4K and the like, restored by whoever. But I do like the titles that I have no idea about, because I can revisit the glory days of Blockbuster and things like that. Because I don't see that often. I don't see that often nowadays where people kind of have things where they don't know what they've got until they've watched it. They already know. They're already going into a movie with an idea of what it is, like a notion, or almost like a review before they've actually watched it. And to me, that doesn't quite sit right. So anyway, going on to the particular titles I got in this particular collection. The first and biggest of 3 box sets three box sets in this instance, was actually Weird Wisconsin, the Bill Redbane collection. Redbane? Bill Redbane collection. Yeah. So this stars, or features, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies. One of which is, of course, a documentary. Who is Bill Redbane? Now, obviously, I'm not going to dive into that straight away, that documentary. I think that's very much going to be on the back burner of this particular box set when it comes to my, attentions. Now, what I found interesting, obviously, I've looked at the box set. I can potentially do an unboxing of this for you if you think that would be your cup of tea. But, much like I've said beforehand, how people go into movies with like a premonition of what to expect. Now, what I've heard about this particular set of movies is, for the most part, they say that they are pretty bad. Now, okay, that's fair. Why spend the money on this if they're going to be bad? Now, that's why I want to give them a shot. I want to see if the rumours are true. I want to see if actually, you know what, they are actually pretty good and they do deserve the space on the shelf. If not, sure, we can discuss solutions as to what to do with them if I wanted to hypothetically pass them on, sell them, whatever. That's very unlikely for me and my collecting habits, but for others, I say that that's probably a fair game, fair option, especially when it comes to storage and things. You're not going to have infinite space for these things. That is hands down one major thing when it comes to collecting. You're not going to have space for everything, and that's totally fair. It's totally fair, and it's a totally just argument. But regarding this, we're going to these movies. There was one title in particular, actually, that I was interested in, which was Twister's Revenge, which only when I kind of read into it, it turns out it's actually about a monster truck with artificial intelligence and chaos ensues. That is a great premise for a movie, and I am actually really intrigued to kind of check that out. Now, looking at the other titles, we have Monster A Go-Go, Invasion from Inner Earth, The Alpha Instant, The Demons of Ludlow, and The Game. I think it is indeed The Game and The Demons of Ludlow that really do kind of call out to me, especially when I kind of read the synopses and things on these, because it does kind of promise kind of a mix of sci-fi horror, all-out horror, and indeed a bit of comedy with Twister's Revenge. However, regarding this particular box set as itself, not necessarily the movies, there is an interesting bit of controversy, maybe that's the wrong word, but interesting kind of mystery surrounding this particular collection, and that is indeed the absence of probably one of Bill Redbane's most famous movies, as he was very much a kind of running and gunning, do it all yourself kind of director, and that is the absence of the Giant Spider Invasion. Now, there is actually on the 4th disc a trailer for the Giant Spider Invasion, which is probably, again, as I've said, one of his more famous titles, which seems like perhaps there was some behind the scenes going on things with rights and things regarding this, because I know that Blood Harvest was also had a bit of controversy surrounding it regarding the rights issues and things, but it's nice, at least regarding the Arrow video set, that they included a trailer for it as a little kind of almost like a tease to a potential future release. That I mean, to be fair, they could release another box set. I mean, it's totally fair. I'll see how this goes and kind of make my own opinions and justifications on whether or not this was any good. But obviously you can see all my reviews on Letterboxd when I get around to it. But yeah, I think overall this was a box set that I wouldn't have got if it wasn't on sale. Because basically, as I say, it is a bit weird. It is a bit kind of out there. Not while it is kind of the things I would normally or be interested in, they wouldn't be titles that I would immediately jump on like purchasing. So I think putting that aside for a moment is actually quite interesting. Actually, I did look through the book which is involved in this. From Latvia to Wisconsin, the song remains Rebane by Stephen Thrower. That did have a good lot of information regarding like the director's journey and things when it came to his movies. So I would definitely check that book out, because I mean sometimes when it comes to like booklets and things, Arrow Video 88 films, some can be a bit lacking, some can be a bit kind of, I don't know, just kind of like material that doesn't really like give a deep insight into anything particular, and it's just kind of like words and stuff. But in this particular instance, I did actually have a bit of a read, and it was actually quite interesting. It was really interesting finding out all about this particular director. So moving on from that, another box set, which technically is my second time purchasing it, actually, because I've seen, well, most of these actual movies. I've seen 3 out of 4 regarding this. I've bought this before for Jack, my friend, who's obviously in numerous videos on the channel. Lovely guy. Please stay tuned for more Cinedrome videos. We've got plenty on the way, plenty of ideas, so stay tuned for that. But basically, what I bought him a long while ago was the House collection. Now, I've seen House 1, 2, and 3. House 4 is probably more intriguing to me than other titles that I've got, because it promises, what was it? Like a pizza. It was like a freaky pizza. Kind of ghosty, screamy pizza thing, which is quite bizarre. And I mean, to be fair, for the most part, they were quite bizarre movies, the first kind of 3. I think certainly the first one was the best thus far. Third one was kind of a bit weird. It did have Lance Hendrickson in it, which kind of like was like a plus side, shall we say? Plus side. This was indeed £20. The Weird Wisconsin was £30. So you're kind of getting an idea of how much this was actually pricing up to on the discounts, because Weird Wisconsin normally would be around 70, and then House would be around, I think, 40 to 50, but I mean that's quite available, so who knows. You'll have to check on the website in your own time now. But the final box set, just kind of round this off, was one that has been on my radar for countless perusals over the Arrow Video website, and that was Cold War Creatures 4 films by Sam Kitzman. Now, we all know I'm a big Godzilla fan, so this is some very heavy atomic age sci-fi like monster stuff here. We have Creature with the Atom Brain, the Werewolf, Zombies of Mora 2, and the Giant Claw. The Giant Claw being probably the most relatable to like a Godzilla movie, a giant monster movie, a kaiju movie. The behind the scenes stories and things on that are quite ridiculous and funny, but this probably thus far is like the gem of the lot, because it is such a ridiculous movie. However, I did catch actually a tiny bit of the werewolf on the Horror Channel. It must have been a good while ago now, and the werewolf effect did actually look pretty like good. The physical effects in it did look pretty good, so maybe that's going to be on the like soon to watch list. We'll see. But essentially, the other 2 movies, Creature with the Atom Brain and Zombies of Mora 2, Zombies of Mora 2 actually sounds just a bit more supernatural than actual like sci-fi. So we'll actually see regarding that, because it kind of feels like that one is kind of like the oddball in this particular like set. However, perhaps that's something I can dive into in a future video if you'd like to see an unboxing of the standard limited edition version of Cold War Creatures. But yeah, I think overall, this must have, what, 30, about 70, 80 pound, I think that kind of collection of movies came to overall, which, quite frankly, compared to what they are now, like out of the sale, is actually quite a dramatic change. So, if anything, much like you have sales on HMV, Zavi, Criterion, second sight, etc, 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 you really do need to keep an eye out and stay on the ball when it comes to these things. Definitely make the most of the sales, ladies and gents, especially collectors out there. It is good for you, good for your bank account, and good overall for your collection. Now, I think it might be a few months until we get another sale from Arrow Video. I know they've got a lot of really good kind of pre-order stuff coming out soon, which is really, really exciting stuff. Like things that come to mind are Dark City, Good, Bad and the Ugly, Roadhouse, all these different things. Zombie Flesh Eaters now has been announced on 4K. That's really exciting. I'm definitely going to have to pick that one up. And again, I can kind of exchange that for the ones in the collection on Blu-ray. So, overall, of the 3 kind of box sets I got here, I think the one I'm most impressed with... Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm not going to say House because I'm most familiar with it, and I kind of know what I'm getting with that. You know what? For the sheer wackiness and all that it kind of promises, the most movies and the information on it was actually pretty interesting. It's got to be Weird Wisconsin, I think. I think that's a good addition to the collection. It's been on the to-get list for a while, and I look forward to diving into the movies to see if it's actually worth my time, worth being in the collection. Am I wrong? That's what I'm going to find out. I want to find out whether or not it was worth my time. And indeed my money. But I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I know everyone approaches collecting differently. If you have any collecting habits that you'd like to discuss, maybe bring up in the comments. That would be absolutely fantastic. I'm really intrigued to see how you, as a viewer, how do you collect? How does it compare to how I collect? I know the way I collect can be, I don't know, a bit jarring maybe to people. I'm not sure. But if you can kind of understand where I'm getting at, that if I want, like, see a title that looks interesting, that kind of I feel drawn to, that I want to give it a go, I don't necessarily need to know the ins and outs before kind of making that purchase, if that makes sense. And that's even before we kind of dive into the collecting for the numbers. Now, the numbers game is perhaps a topic for another video. Everyone will approach that differently, because we all know that the spines and the marketing decisions going behind the spine numbers on like titles like the 88 Films Asia collection, that's a smart move, marketers. However, having gaps for the I don't know, completionists maybe, is probably a bit of an annoyance. So there we are. Please let me know in the comments what you think of this recent pickups. Did I make the most of the sale? Please let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel, please. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I will see you, ladies and gentlemen, in the next one.